leaning them against the pillows so that none of them fall. Okay. Hi guys, welcome to another video on my channel, or if you're new here, my name is Julia and I am so excited that you clicked on today's video. Today we are going to be going over a book haul, as you saw from the title. I am so excited to do this video because I don't know about you, but I love watching book haul videos. I love seeing all the new books that people got, and I love just like hearing about the books and finding new ones to read and add to my never-ending TBR list that is longer than my lifespan. So without further ado, let's get into today's video and the books that I recently got. So these books that I have here are all books that I have gotten over the last, I would say, 2 months. And I wanted to save this video until then and wait because I was really waiting for a couple specific books that I wanted to add to this haul and talk about in today's video. So I'm super excited that I now have my hands on them. They are now on my bookshelf and I'm excited to talk about them with you guys. And I have one book in particular that I have to blame for taking this long to get the video out. Not that it's been that long, it's only 2 months, but still, it felt like forever. So I'm so excited that I finally have this certain book that you probably can imagine what it is in my possession now, and I am so excited to talk to you guys about it. So without further ado, let's talk about those, and let's start with that said book. Fourth Wing. Okay, so guys, this book is impossible to get your hands on. If you know, you know. It blew up all over TikTok. I didn't understand why it was such a huge book, but you know how it goes. You see something on TikTok or you hear about it on social media over and over and over again, it's gotta be good and you gotta get your hands on it. And normally I'm the type of person where I don't really fall for the praise on something. Like normally I don't just like follow what everyone else is doing. In fact, like usually in the past I've done the opposite and avoided it because I didn't want to be a part of it. I don't know why, but anyway, that has changed, and especially with books, that's different for me. The only thing is that sadly I don't have the wonderful copy that everyone talks about with the sprayed edges, but it's not that big of a deal. It's okay. I just really wanted to read this book because I heard amazing things about it and a lot of people rating it so highly. So Fourth Wing, I don't know too much about it. I just know that it involves dragons because there's one on the cover, which this cover is so cool. Like if you have not seen it before, it's just a really cool cover. So anyway, I know it's about dragons. I know that it's a fantasy book and it's a really good book. So I can't wait to read that. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And I know she has other books that are out, and I know she has a second book that's coming out soon. It might be in December, and that one is Iron Flame, I believe, but I have pre-ordered that book, so I can't wait to get my hands on that one. But pro tip for getting this book, if you haven't gotten it and you're still struggling to get your hands on it, I went to Barnes & Noble and I ran into this other person that was there. Actually, Brennan pointed her out to me because she had the copy and he knew that I was looking for this book because he would come along with me on the hunt, and he was like, she has Fourth Wing, like you should see if she like got it here, where she got it. So I asked, and she said that she put a hold on the book at Barnes & Noble so that when a new shipment came in, and this seems so simple, like why didn't I think of this sooner? I don't know, but she put a hold on the book so that when it came in, they would hold the copy for I think like 3 days or a few days. And I did that and it came pretty quickly. Like I think it came within like 3 days, 2 or 3 days. So I recommend doing that if you haven't gotten your hands on a copy yet and want to do that. But anyway, Fourth Wing, that is the first book in my new haul. Next up is another book that is on the rise of being like talked about so much, and it seems like a really, really interesting book to me, and that's Red Rising. So if you haven't heard of this book, it is a sci-fi, and that is pretty much all I know about this book. Like I said, if multiple people rave about a book, you best believe I'm gonna get my hands on it because I want to see for myself if I really like it or not and see what all the hype is about. Especially if it's a favorite YouTuber of mine that raves about this book, I definitely am gonna buy it or read it because I want to see if I like it too. And a lot of times, like I've found that my favorite genres and my opinions on books match what my favorite YouTubers' opinions are on most of the books. So a lot of times I trust their opinions on the books and usually 9 times out of 10 agree with them. And it's also helping me branch out of my comfort zone, because any sci-fi books, like, that's a new genre for me that I haven't really dove deep into yet. So I want to give this a try, but I did see that Destiny recently started reading this and she's kind of struggling to get into it and really wrap her brain around what the book is about. So I'm kind of nervous about that, but I still want to give it a try. This is part of a series. I know that there's 3 books out as of right now, and there might be a 4th book coming out, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, so I got the first book, Red Rising. Next up, I got another recent book that just came out, and that's Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. This book you probably have heard me talk about in one of my recent videos. Ali Hazelwood's books I absolutely have loved so far. I've read The Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain, and both of those were so good. I gave both of them, I'm pretty sure, 4 stars. And absolutely love them. So I am really excited to get to Love Theoretically, because I've heard from a few people that this is their favorite of the 3. So I'm excited to read it and see if my opinion is the same or different. But one thing I do know about this book is that, or all I know about this book, is that the main girl character, she is a scientist, which if you don't know, or if you're not familiar with Ali Hazelwood's books, she has 3 books out right now, including this one, that are about women in STEM. I don't think, like, she has other books out there that aren't necessarily science books or about women in STEM, but I know for sure, like, she has those 3 books, Love Hypothesis, Love on the Brain, and Love Theoretically, that are about women in STEM. And I think it's so cool that she's doing that. Some people don't like that all of her books feel the same. I don't think they really feel the same. They all stand out differently to me, and I just really like that she has her own niche that she's focusing on and really embracing, because I like when someone stands out and does something different, and she writes romance really well. I like that the women are really independent and strong women, and it's just really cool. It's just a fun romance to read. So anyway, the main girl, she is working as a scientist, and unfortunately, like, right now with her job, she is not getting enough money, and so she has a side job that she does where she fake dates people for whatever reason, why they need a fake girlfriend. And so she has been doing it for a while, and there's this one client that she has been fake dating multiple times. He's been a client of hers a few times, and the client's brother is the main guy character that she falls for. So that's really interesting. I don't think I've read a book like that before, but I'm excited to read it because, like I said, I've heard good things about it, that it's a lot of people's favorite of the 3. So Love Theoretically. Next up is something a little out of what I normally have talked about on this channel, and it is a nonfiction book. I used to love nonfiction books, and I still do, but I read them so much. Like, I was reading them nonstop, and they all started to feel like the same thing. Like, they were all talking about the same thing. So I decided to give it a break. I was overdoing it too much, and I've since gotten back into and fallen back in love with reading fiction books and just re-obsessed with it. And I just love being able to disassociate and, like, go into a different world than reality and just forget about reality for a while. So yeah, that's why I usually prefer fiction right now over nonfiction, just because of that. I like to be able to just, like, go into a different world and all of that. So anyway, all that to say, the next book is a nonfiction though, and I had to pick this up because it's about Disney. So if you know me, or if you've been watching this channel for a little bit, then you know that I love Disney. So this book, all I saw literally was Walt, the name Walt, and Mickey, and I was like, skirt, in Barnes & Noble. So I, like, backed it up, and I looked over, and I was like, what's this? And it's called Walt's Apprentice, Keeping the Disney Dream Alive by Dick Nunis? I think it's Nunis, Disney legend. So I'm really excited to read this and see what it's about. On the back, all I read was handpicked by Walt Disney to help define and refine the Disney parks experience. Dick Nunis developed principles that made the magic real. I love reading anything that has to do with Disney and Disney history, and I love seeing and hearing about people that got to work with Walt Disney, just because I look up to him in certain ways and what he's done and what he created and just like what he strived for, even though so many people didn't believe in him and didn't support his dreams and he still went after them. I aspire to be like that, and I don't know, I just admire that so much. So I love reading anything that has to do with Walt Disney or anyone that worked with him. So I got this book, I had to, and I can't wait to read it. Then back to fiction books. So next up I got Archer's Voice, and I can't remember if I've talked about this yet or not since I got it. I know that I did talk about it in one of my most recent videos, 2 videos ago. If you didn't see that, make sure to go watch it. It is the TBR prompt jar chooses my reads. In that video, this book is one of the books that I chose from the TBR prompts. Alexa Ray, who I heard about this book through, raved about this book. She's talked about it multiple times and how this is still standing the test of time as one of her favorite romance books. And next up is a book that I ordered recently and got that I heard about once on a TikTok, and I also talked about this in my TBR jar video as well, but that is Ever the Hunted, and this is actually part of my TBR. Ever the Hunted is a fantasy book, and what I heard from the person who raved about this is that it is a book that isn't talked about very much, that should be talked about more because they loved it so much and thought it was so good and rated it 5 stars. And I was like, sold. That's all I need to know. That's all I need to hear. I'm getting it. So it's sad that that's all I need, but it does revolve around dark magic, mad kings, and kingdoms that the main character has to go through. And at the top of the book, it says, how can you track down a killer when he's the boy who stole your heart? And I really like books like this where they're going on a hunt and like the people they meet along the way and having a quest that they're going on and going through different kingdoms and stuff like that. Like, it just reminds me of like Game of Thrones and like stuff like, I don't know, stuff like that. It just reminds me of that. So I wanted to get this book and give it a try. And I haven't heard about it from anyone other than that one TikTok that I heard about it from. So I'm gonna give it a try and tell you guys what I think about it. So stay tuned for that because this is part of my TBR, like I said, for August. And I'm super excited to get to that book. I think it'll be a 5 star. And speaking of 5 stars, I think this will also be a 5 star. I finally got The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. So if you have not heard about this book, a lot of people have talked about how it is an incredible book. A lot of people have rated it 5 stars. I know Sarah Caroli and Haley Pham have rated it 5 stars and definitely would reread it. So The Bodyguard is about a famous guy, and actually the girl on the cover, she is the bodyguard. And there's a fake dating trope in this book, and that's pretty much all I know. And yeah, I heard it was a really, really good book, and so I'm so excited to get to this. And this is also on my TBR. Next up is also a book on my TBR, and this is the newest book in the Hunger Games series. So The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, I am rereading the Hunger Games trilogy, and then I'm going to read this afterward. If you have not heard of The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, this is the prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy. So if you've also heard, they are coming out with a movie based on this book, and I believe that movie is coming out in November, or at least at the end of this year. And I really want to read this book before watching the movie and do the reread of the entire series just to refresh my memory before going and seeing the movie. And also because this whole series, like the Hunger Games series, was one of my absolute favorites to read. And it was one of the series that got me back, not got me back into reading, honestly, because I was still just a big reader, but it was a series that I became obsessed with. And it was like how a lot of people look at Harry Potter. It was my Harry Potter series back then, because I hadn't read the Harry Potter series yet and was absolutely obsessed with the Hunger Games. The first movie had just come out, and so then I immediately read the first book after that, and then the second book had already been released. So I went right into the second book, and then shortly after that, the third book had come out. So I went and got that book and read it immediately. And I read the second and third book before seeing the second, third, and fourth movies, and I loved doing that. And that was like the first time I ever read for the most part, a series before seeing the movies, and I loved how accurate they got the movies to the books. So I've always loved the Hunger Games and that whole series, and I'm so excited to give this book a try and learn more about President Snow, because if you don't know, this book is about and revolves around President Snow, and it's when he's younger. It's like when he's 19, I think, and it's learning more about him and him being brought up and his experiences, and I'm really excited to give it a try. So I got that book. And I actually pre-ordered that book a while ago and got it in. So this isn't necessarily new, but I wanted to include it in this book haul because I am going to be reading it soon. So I have had this for a while. So I guess that is kind of cheating. This isn't really that new, but it is something that is being talked about a lot right now because the movie is coming out soon. So I wanted to include it in this video. Next up is a book I recently got called The Summer of Broken Rules. So you probably have heard this before, and if you haven't, it is by K.L. Walter or Walther. I don't know how to pronounce the last name, but The Summer of Broken Rules I've heard really, really good things about. A few people have rated it 5 stars, and there is a second book out called What Happens at Midnight, I think. And I've heard that this book is really, really good, and the second book is pretty good too, but this one is the best so far. I don't know if there's more coming out, and I think that the 2 books are related to each other. I don't think they're standalones. But this one is about the main character, Meredith Fox. 1 minute, allergies. This book is about the main character, Meredith, and Meredith lost her sister, Claire, a while back, and she is still going through grieving with that and trying to figure out life after losing her sister. And so she has shut everyone out, and she's really just kind of like closed in on herself and just like closed everyone out and all of that. And so with this coming up summer, there's a family trip coming up that her family goes on every year, and she told herself, she made a promise that she was going to try and really branch back out and put herself back out into the world and try and heal and, you know, get herself back out there. And so she wants to do that on this family trip. The family trip takes place in Martha's Vineyard. And so I think that's really cool that it takes place there, because I think that's just so beautiful. And so with annual family vacation at Martha's Vineyard, there's a family game that they always play, and it's called Assassin. So if you've heard of that before, I think I've heard of it before, but I couldn't remember what all it entails. But anyway, she plays this game of Assassin all week with her family and everything, and it's a tradition to play. And she, along that, like, I think they each have partners, and her partner is the love interest, the guy that's in this. He's someone that's part of the wedding party, which, side note, that's another thing that's happening this summer during this trip. There's a wedding in the family that's happening, and so one of the groomsmen, she kind of gets close with and connects with along the way and during playing the assassin game and everything. And so it's about that and about her trying to honor her sister too at the same time. And so I thought it was a really neat idea. It's really interesting, and I've heard really good things about it. And so yeah, I got it. Next is the Happy Ever After playlist. This is by Abby Jimenez, and Abby Jimenez is an amazing romance writer. She's just an amazing author in general. But I read her first book, The Friend Zone, a long time ago, and actually it was the book that got me back into reading a couple years ago. I used to always be obsessed with reading. I used to love books. Like, I've always grown up loving books, loving reading and all of that. And then high school and college came around and it kind of just dwindled and it fell out of my life for a while. And since then I read Friend Zone. I don't know how I came across it. I think it was a recommended book to me on my Nook. So if you've heard of Nook before from Barnes & Noble, I had a Nook before I got a Kindle, and I read The Friend Zone. I think it was just a recommended video. So I clicked it and I started reading it. It was either that or I saw a YouTuber talk about it a long time ago, but I loved that book. I gave it 5 stars, and I mean, granted, it's been a couple years since I read it, so I do want to reread it and see if it's still a 5 stars for me, or if it was just because I was getting back into reading and everything that I read was good at that point. But one thing that I loved about her writing was that it's not just a cute little rom-com book. There's so much depth to it. She puts so much depth to the characters. There's like backstories behind them, there's struggles that they're facing and everything, and it's just like the characters are more raw and real, and I love that. And there's like challenges in the book that they face and stuff like that, and so I like that about it. There's like usually not always something like traumatic they're going through, but there's a struggle that they're going through, and it just creates a deeper connection to that character and makes you like appreciate them and their story more and get more connected to those characters. So I really like that about her books, and I've heard really good things about this book, The Happy Ever After Playlist. Next is a book that I can't remember if I've talked about yet, but I recently added to my August TBR. It's talked about in my TBR prompts video, but that is When in Rome. And if you watched my last video, then you also know that I started reading this book. When in Rome is about these two characters, of course, and the main girl, her name is Amelia Rose. She is a famous singer, and this guy, what's his name? I'm currently reading it and I forgot his name. Noah Walker. So Noah lives in the town of Rome, but it's not Rome as in France. It's Rome, oh my God, France. It's not Rome as in Italy. It's not Rome as in Italy, it is Rome, Kentucky. So Noah lives in the little town of Rome, Kentucky, and Amelia comes across this small town because she is trying to just take a break from her life of being a celebrity and being in the spotlight, and she just needs a break. And on her way to do this tour that she's going on, she decides to leave and drive in her old car, and she originally was like, I want to go to Rome, but she can't go all the way to Rome because she has this tour that she's about to go on. So instead she finds the nearest Rome to her, which is Rome, Kentucky. So she is driving there and gets stuck. Her car breaks down on Noah's lawn. And that's the premise of this story. It's about them meeting and getting to know each other, and that is all I know. That's pretty much the gist of this book, and I'm excited to continue reading it. It's really good so far. I'm about 35 pages in, and I'm absolutely loving it. So I heard this was a really good book, and there is a sequel to this book called Practice Makes Perfect, and it is about Noah's sister and her love interest. So I'm really excited to read that one after this one, but they're really cute little romances, and I've heard really good things about Sarah Adams' books, and I've heard she just makes these really cute romance books that are just fun to read. They're just feel-good romances, so if you ever want just a quick romance read, check out Sarah Adams' books. Then next and second to last is Love on the Brain, and this is going along with Love Theoretically. So earlier I was talking about Love on the Brain, and yes, I did actually read this book. I read it right away after I bought it a couple weeks ago, and absolutely loved it. I love the characters, and you can hear more about what I thought about this book in my previous video if you haven't watched that already. But I got Love on the Brain because I wanted to make sure I got Allie Hazelwood's most recent books. This one came out, I think, last year, and Love Theoretically just came out last month in July, and I wanted to get my hands on those books because I absolutely loved her first book, The Love Hypothesis. So I got my hands on this book and Love Theoretically, and this one is about Bea and Levi. And Bea and Levi have known each other for a while. They knew each other from school that they went to, and Bea thinks that Levi doesn't like her, that he wants nothing to do with her, that she wronged him in some way, and he's annoyed with her. And so anytime she's by him, like, he doesn't talk to her, he doesn't really look at her or give her the time of day, and she doesn't truly understand why. She has some ideas, but that's about it. Fast forward, and she is asked to join this project with NASA that her school is partnering up with NASA for. There's this project that they're creating this helmet for astronauts, and she is brought on and partnered with Levi. So she's like, oh God, how am I supposed to be partners with him? He hates me and I don't want to be partners with him. I don't like him and it's gonna go horribly. So she's trying to figure out what she's gonna do and figuring out and navigating, trying to work with Levi and get to know him and work on this project with him. It was a really, really good book. I highly recommended it. And you can see what my thoughts were, like I said, and what I rated it in my previous video, my July wrap up. And last but not least is Divine Rivals. And this book I just finished, and I just recently got this as well. I actually ordered it around the same time as I got Love on the Brain and Love Theoretically. And this book I can't say enough good things about. You can see my ratings and my in-depth thoughts on this book also in my July wrap-up, but this book was so good. I cannot recommend it enough, like I said. This book is about Iris and Roman. They are rivals working at this gazette, and this is set in the 1900s, I think in the early 1900s, but they are rivals and they use typewriters. That's why that you see the typewriter letters on the cover. And this cover is so beautiful, by the way. Like, I'm so excited to have this on my shelf, and I think it's so cool that it has irises on it. Like, it's so pretty. And yeah, so this book is about, like I said, Iris and Roman. They are rivals at this gazette, and why they are rivals is because they are competing for the same position. One of them will become the columnist for the gazette. They're competing for that position for different reasons, and you learn why each of them really wants this columnist position. And although this book is in third person, it didn't feel like a third person book that much to me, because you get to see essentially a bit of Iris's point of view, and you also get to see Roman's point of view. And so I just, like, it was so beautifully written. It was so well written by Rebecca Ross that I completely forgot about the fact that it was third person, which normally does bother me, but didn't for me in this book. But the other really cool thing about this book that is different from others is that it's set in a time where there's a war going on between gods. And the other thing is that the typewriters that Roman and Iris have are magical typewriters. And they are writing to one another with these magical typewriters, but Iris doesn't know that it's Roman, and Roman knows that it's Iris. So that's really interesting, and I found to be so intriguing. And that's all I knew from this book when I started it out, is that they were writing to each other with these magical typewriters, sending it through their wardrobe, their closet, and Iris didn't know it was Roman, but Roman knew it was Iris. That's all you know going into it, and that is not a spoiler in this book. You find that out in the very beginning, but it goes so much more in depth from there, and there's a lot of twists and turns that get added into this book involving the war and everything like that. It is such a good book and so well written, and I cannot recommend it enough. But you can see my final thoughts and my final rating in my previous video that just released. So that is all of my books from my book haul. There are so many books, but I wanted to, like I said, save all those books to do a big haul for you guys and talk about all of them in one video. I'm so excited to get to most of these books, and for the books that I have already read, I absolutely loved. So I can't wait to continue reading them and hope that a lot of them end up being really good books as well. And I can't wait to give you guys my thoughts and my final ratings on them as well. So stay tuned for those videos coming in the future. A lot of these books, like I said, are on my TBR for this month, August, and so I'm excited to get to them soon. And I'll probably be doing a reading vlog of some of the books that I have on that list, especially the Hunger Games trilogy / the prequel. I'm gonna be doing a vlog on rereading those 3 books and the new book. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for more videos, and make sure to like this video, give it a big thumbs up below if you did like the video, and subscribe to my channel if you aren't already, and comment down below your thoughts on this, your thoughts on these books, if you've read any of them before or if you haven't heard of some of them before, and if you're going to be adding them to your TBR. I love talking with you guys about these books, and I love hearing your thoughts on them, what you thought about them, your ratings and all of that. But just make sure that you don't leave any spoilers in the comments as always. But thank you guys again so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!